Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, for the latest report as part of Channel 4's Fake News Week, one movement which has fueled and been fueled by fake news is the so-called alternative or alt-right. Many say it is just relabeling for the far right. It's a term which encompasses a range of often young, right-wing speakers and bloggers. Some have become notorious for their views on race, religion, gender. Many in America also helped promote fake news about President Trump's election opponents. Inevitably, the so-called alt-right has attracted supporters here. Channel 4 News has been hearing from some of them. They disagree about what the movement actually stands for, and they don't all share the same extreme views. But they're united in believing that Western culture is under threat. And a warning, this film does contain words and symbols you may find offensive.
The left is dead. We are winning. We've worked hard for this for years. We're finally getting there.
Trump is our mascot. Trump is someone who we put our faith into. That's the job of the alt-right, bringing that cultural influence into politics.
Oh, the alt-right. Well, I see us pretty much everywhere I go on the internet. The umbrella term is for anyone that's against white people being replaced in their own nations. But it's a general term that covers a lot of things.
How long ago do you consider yourself left-wing?
I'd say it was probably a year ago when I was still wearing my Rage Against the Machine t-shirts and things. So, but at first I refused to even watch the videos because I said I don't want to listen to a racist because I was narrow-minded. I was like watching the videos around January, February time last year, and by April I'd made like a full conversion. I felt like I was stumbling onto this huge monumental truth, and I was like, I couldn't just resist the urge.
When I was growing up, like, all I've known is middle class, very liberal. I've always been surrounded by the same people. My whole family, like even my grandparents, they're left-wing. We're a Brighton family. Now I'm the editor-in-chief of a right-wing website. I think my parents think that I don't understand, that I'm ignorant, and that I've got a lot of growing up to do.
Do they know about everything? Do they know about the website?
No.
They don't know.
No. I consider myself a feminist, but that was the point where I kind of like started like Googling like other things. I came across a video by Paul Joseph Watson, and I watched it and I was like, hang on a second, like that's what I think. Do other people think the same as me?
What was the video?
I think it was about Islamophobia and how it's not a thing. I started reading Breitbart and like found other YouTubers and, you know, found my people, so to speak.
I was about 16, 15, so they got to me quite young, so to speak. I'm primarily a libertarian, but I sympathize with the alt-right. It happens on the internet, in forums, in Reddit, 4chan, YouTube, Facebook. That's where all the discussion is, that's where all the debate is, that's where all the fun is, basically, the entertainment, so to speak. The amazing thing the alt-right has done is it's fused politics, culture, and entertainment in one. You know, it allows you to be a Nazi frog on Twitter and troll, you know, conservatives who are completely outraged by this. But it's so fun to witness the outrage of socialists and leftists and conservatives.
I started off in the BNP, and I was contacted by Paul Weston and Liberty GB, and I've been doing that ever since. And we stood for election in Batley and Spen.
As Islam becomes a more dominant force in the UK, we are going to see more children being gang raped, we're going to see more beheadings on the street, we're going to see more terrorism, and a total destruction of Britain's cultural identity.
So the alt-right started around 2008, 2009. I've kind of been on the edges of it because I've never bought into absolutely everything. I consider myself just a conservative. I don't think I'm radical. The alt-right's a little bit more radical.
Congratulations, Donald Trump, and congratulations, everyone else. You know, we've worked hard for this for years, and we're finally getting there. The politics have changed drastically, and that's just because the culture's changed as well. There's a great phrase that some people use, is like, we've memed this world into life, you know. It's gone from being an internet movement to a wider movement of people who went out and voted. So it's a winning strategy, and I want to get in on that.
Yeah, I've got a ton of stuff going on here.
What do your friends and family think about your beliefs?
My family think it's dangerous. My white friends don't quite know. My friends of other races, I've had to speak to them about it because I think it's a concern that it's all our concern. But for now, I need to keep my identity secret until I've at least got some people in my personal life that understand my qualms. I just sort of started seeing how the world's been changing over the past year, and I thought, I don't want this future. I don't want my children to grow up, or my future children to grow up a minority in their country. It doesn't mean I hate any other group. I don't hate any other group. I just believe that every group has its own rights, and that white people's needs and rights need to be respected like every other group.
And is the alt-right helping?
Helping? Oh yeah, it's helping because it's helping ensure that there could be a future, rather than my people being erased.
But are you verifying the stuff that you see on YouTube?
Well, I can make up my mind from it.
But are you fact-checking it?
Yes, some of it. But you can't constantly fact-check everything you see. That's rather tedious. But yeah, there's a lot of it that... Do you fact-check everything you see on the mainstream media?
How do you guys know each other and how come you're friends?
We met through college, but we weren't friends immediately.
How come?
He thought I was racist. I'd send him videos that he's hooked on now, and he'd say, "Stop sending me your racist videos," and things like that. He was a socialist.
Yeah.
And what changed?
I helped him see the light.
In terms of the alt-right, I'd say I try to like not class myself as a member. What people don't understand is that it's a very flexible term. Like, been very uneager to identify as alt-right because
I wouldn't call myself
because it's like because of the stigma.
No, I'd call myself a proud boy, a Western chauvinist. I'd call myself a conservative, a libertarian, a paleo-conservative. I'd never call myself alt-right because I just don't care about hating Jews and white supremacy.
The bell curve is, as I'll show you, it's the idea that there's the average IQ is 100, and there are as many people on this side, on the quote-unquote dumb side, as on the intelligent side. But this is, for example, the one for white people, but the one for example, blacks, as the book describes, is sort of more over here. There's still a bell curve, but there's a smaller one, and it's slightly shifted.
And is this popular reading in the alt-right?
This is definitely required reading if you want to be alt-right. You know, this is what you have to know, that there's a difference in IQ between blacks and whites, or the Mexicans and...
It's just a theory. There's no science behind that.
No science? Well, I would certainly disagree. And these are scientific psychological studies. We come on to Mein Kampf. I simply believe that, you know, if you like history, even just you should read this, because this is probably the important book of the 20th century. Even if you're not alt-right, you should have read this.
But how do the ideas of Hitler fuse into the alt-right?
They see him as the archetype of a person who they should be. You know, just like maybe say Muslims see Muhammad as the archetype of a Muslim. They see Hitler and Nazi Germany as how the world should be. But that's more extreme strands of the alt-right. But still, that strand is probably the biggest strand of it.
Does that bother you?
Certainly to an extent as a Pole, that kind of on a even a personal level should. But my hatred of communism is still bigger than my hatred of, for example, Nazi Germany.
How do you feel about the accusation that the alt-right is racist?
It's true. It's simply true. You can't get around it. I'm not necessarily a particular advocate of that.
How can you get past that?
I guess because it's such a large crowd. It's such a, actually ironically, diverse group of people that a libertarian can find his place among it.
You have all these soft-spoken intellectuals on the internet who are called Nazis, and it's nonsense. They're ordinary people who just have, perhaps, slightly controversial views. Even very moderate people are called like things like that. Like Milo Yiannopoulos, kind of.
Is he a moderate?
He's very moderate. He's been called far right, and he's like a liberal, a classic liberal, but he's been called far right. That's nonsense. People like me are far right. Good heavens!
You have to look at where it goes, and where does this stuff go?
Oh come on! Are you seriously suggesting that people pontificating on the internet leads to, you know, stamping down people's doors? No, nonsense. That's total nonsense.
We're not young people who don't know what we're doing. You know, this isn't like a phase or whatever. Like, we genuinely want to kind of like make it all shiny and new.
It's coming off the internet and people are meeting up in person more and more. And eventually they'll get together and it won't be what you'd expect. Like, most of these people are very unstereotypical. They're not like the sort of people you find on EDL marches or BNP marches.
I don't care about race. I honestly don't. I care about Europe's culture being snowed under by multiculturalism.
Years ago, I was terrified of being called a racist. It was like the worst thing ever. And now it's so many of us get called racist, we just go, all right, fine, whatever, call me racist. Maybe I'm a racist. I don't care. If being racist, if what I say is racist to all these people, then fine, call me racist.
We're all looking at America in sort of glee and hope. You know, so we're hoping that that success translates into, for example, Le Pen in France, or Alternative for Deutschland, or the Swedish Democrats. As one of my friends said, your politics has ended, mine has just begun.
Well, Jack Buckby is the co-founder of a new right-wing magazine. You've just seen him in that piece. Barbara Toomey is a political activist from the NUS Black Students Campaign. And from Dublin, we have Angela Nagel, who's an expert in this area and has written about online culture wars. Angela, there have always been angry people who didn't like immigrants or hated Jews or hated Muslims. But there were a relatively small number of them, so they didn't really matter. What we see now is this sort of radicalisation of young people on the internet. Does this make them losers with laptops or a political movement?
Well, there are multiple layers of it, and this is one of the things that makes it very difficult to talk about because, for example, Milo Yiannopoulos, who's mentioned, is very different politically to the hardcore of the alt-right, which is a very American phenomenon and which does have explicitly racial politics. So it's quite a long journey from that hardcore of the alt-right to, for example, the average Trump voter. So in a way, you know, I wouldn't want to in any way underestimate it as a movement because it is a kind of avant-garde, even so the fact that it's small doesn't matter too much. But it certainly is going to be very culturally influential and already has been.
Jack Buckby, you stood for election, you got 220 votes. Yeah. You've got a few thousand Twitter followers. Sure. I mean, there have always been people like you, haven't there? I mean, is there anything new about what you're doing?
No, I wouldn't say there's anything new, but I'd say definitely the way that we go about politics has changed. You know, my election campaign, you know, if we're going to talk about that, was primarily to cause a discussion about what I believe was a serious issue in the area, which is
we've seen is a serious issue.
But nobody agreed with you, is the point. I mean,
well, no,
you got 1.1% in the
Yeah, I
so,
know. I don't think that's true. I mean, I'm from a very small political party with a very small amount of funding. The point was never to win.
So not many people think the way you do.
See, I disagree with that. We had 4 million people voting for UKIP, and many of those agree with me. I don't associate with this fringe of the alt-right, which is, neo-Nazi, white supremacist kind of thing. But these 4 million UKIP voters agree with many of the kind of ideas that I talk about. I know a lot of people who are high up in UKIP who agree with me on almost all things, and I know many Tory voters and many traditional Labour voters believe the same as well. So what we've seen is it doesn't work out in politics, but it is creating a new online culture.
Barbara and Toomey, I mean, can you afford to ignore him?
I've never said that we should ignore people like Jack, to be honest. I am actively campaigning and will continue to ignore people, to campaign against people like Jack and the views that he stands for. I think it's absolutely despicable that you can sit here and basically spout these things that basically infringe on the rights of other people to just exist in society. It's ridiculous. Like, you're able to exist and be you, but yet your whole movement and your whole thing is about how, for some reason, black people have low IQs. I mean, he's proven that there's no actual biological difference between black and white people. That's a myth. That's pseudosciences from the 1800s that you keep bringing back. So I'm just completely astonished somebody's well-educated that chooses to believe such nonsense, quite frankly.
I'd love to know where you got this information from, because I don't believe those things that you're talking about.
But you have said people should be deported, haven't you?
Yes, people who are a drain on the economy, absolutely, yes.
So white people as well?
So who gets to define
anybody's a drain on the economy?
No. Who gets to decide who's a drain? So black people who are born here, they can stay, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Right, so who gets to define who's
No,
a
I
drain
love
on
this
society?
sort of faux outrage you've got going on here. You'll say, oh, you hate black people. You don't think people should exist. It's constant faux outrage. And you know what? You are the reason we exist. You are the reason this online movement exists.
My black existence is the reason you exist.
Stop bringing race into it. We hate the fact that you people take the moral superiority. But you know what?
It's got
Put your money where your mouth is.
to do with
Syrian
race.
refugees, application
Absolutely
form.
everything
Take
to
one
do with
home.
race.
Taking a Syrian refugee, I hope you don't get raped. Because we talk about these serious issues and you demean us, you attack us.
I can afford rent for a one-bedroom house, so I don't, I don't have the financial means to do that. You probably do, though, with all your money.
Oh, all the money I've got? Where did I get that from?
No, let me just sort of. I mean, the point is, it's a bit like a religion. Watching this, it's like watching two people who just believe different things. And I just wonder whether you see the similarity between what you're doing and what ISIS are doing, and that you're sort of there's a radicalisation going on, isn't there?
ISIS are throwing gays off buildings. They're attacking feminists.
I mean, in terms
people
of
like you are evil to those people. They want you dead. We're talking about these serious issues, and you sit there with your faux outrage, scuffing when you hear something you don't like. It's despicable.
Just address the point. What I'm saying is, you're organising online. You make videos. You make these sorts of videos with music, and you cut in pictures of attacks and terrorist attacks and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what ISIS and Al-Qaeda do. And they prey on vulnerable people.
That's really not
and I wonder whether you're preying on similarly vulnerable people.
I'm portraying a message to people who a lot of people already understand these issues. Some people are on the edge of realising that there are issues. But to try and compare our movement, and again, I don't associate with these ultra-right white supremacists. I'm not one of those. If anything, I'm a paleo-libertarian. But our ideals are entirely...
Hang on. Okay, let's just establish that. You want Britain to be essentially white, don't you?
No, I think it should be majority indigenous.
Majority.
It is already a majority white.
Fine.
What is the problem? White people make up, listen, white people make up 20% of the world's population. The reason why I'm sat in this country today is because Britain came to my country hundreds of years ago. That is the exact reason why I'm sat here today. So don't this pretend no. But the reason why I'm here is because you were in my country first. Invaded, still, and enslaved. My point is I have every right to be here in the same way you
I would love to know where you got this idea that I don't think you don't have a right to be here. As silly as I think you are, I think you've got every right to live here. This is
Britain is still a majority white country.
Barbara and Toomey.
Britain is still a majority white country.
Let me bring you in.
I'm not saying it's not.
Let me bring you to the point that actually Jack raised earlier, which is it the failure of progressive politics, of the left, to appeal to young people and to offer them a future that means that some of them, a small number admittedly, but some of them are being seduced by this?
A small number of people will obviously be seduced by this. That's just the fact.
Well, they just always would be.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with the left or the progressive not being able to make the case. I think we're living in a very particular time where austerity, people's living standards have been driven, and the left has not been able to be empowered to improve that. That's just a fact. We're at the height of capitalism at the moment, where it's exploit, and the easiest way to do that is to tell groups of people that other people are the problem. Why have you brought in an application form here for receive a refugee? What's that got to do with anything that we're discussing in here? No, but that's the point. That's exactly the point.
Let's just go to Angela. I mean, I don't know what you've made of this argument that's been going on in the studio. I want to come back to whether this is something that is really powerful and dangerous, as many people would see it, or whether it's just, you know, a bunch of kids who'll grow up eventually and feel a bit embarrassed about how they felt.
No, I think it's important not to underestimate it, particularly because in terms of what you were just saying a moment ago about the left, I mean, really the centre has collapsed in quite a major way, as we've seen, particularly with the election of Donald Trump. What you have is really a kind of exhausted and quite bankrupt centre-left and centre-right, who are kind of progressive neoliberals who really believe in nothing other than the market. And it was quite sad to hear some of the young people in that video, because many of them clearly feel, you know, very fatalistic about the future. That doesn't excuse what they're saying, but you know, it tells us that we are really lacking a vision at this point.
Well, we must leave it there. Angela Nagle, Barbara and Toomey and Jack Buckby, thank you for coming in. I'm sorry if any of those views offended you, but it's Channel 4's job to explore minority views, and that's what we do.